Hello everyone. Today we're going to revisit refurbish your motors at home. And I've got this Atlas 282 that's going to help us in our experimentation. And so let's get to work. Fortunately, these are really easy to get into if you want to change out the motor. So I don't have to redo all the parts, all the cleaning parts of it. I can just go straight to removing the shell and digging the motor out. I will use the box, to keep track of my part, although we don't have to get very deep into it to get to the motor. Super, and then just these two screws. On here, there's two screws, and you can just remove those to get the motor out. I'm going to move the shell way back. And remove the two screws. And for end scale, these are big screws. Then there's a little wire that connects to the light, which I like to keep the light if I can. Then these are just spacers that I made for the motor because it needed just a little extra room in there. I'm going to remove this little black spacer here just to help me get the wire out for the light, because I'm not going to be changing anything there. That light can stay where it is for the time being. Oh yeah, I have to do a little bit more work. So to remove the light, you just pry under here, and the light's free. And then as you pull back the motor, the light is just gonna follow. That's it. We have our motor on our hands. In our hands, put back the little spacer there. That's just to help with the tender, that little spacer. I suppose it could run without it, but we're not going to do that. So perfect. And then I got my other spacer to go. And then I can remove the little coupling for the worm gear. Then we'll just pull this apart very gently. And that pull gently because your two brushes are here. So you don't want to mess that up. So there you go. There's my refurbished rotor assembly. So it's a three-phase rotor assembly. I'm not able to get these anymore. I've sold them all on my website. My website's watchtrainsnow.com. I'm going to be using this middle section, which is 5 poles. So that should run a little bit better. At any rate, we're going to try this out today. So I'm going to start by removing the two brushes from here. I always keep the brushes and springs from motors that I take apart, because you never know. On the day that you need a motor and a spring and a brush, you might not want to wait for a week for it to come back from eBay. And these have the ability to fly. So you have to be very careful as you remove them. Then I'll do the exact same thing on the other side. I don't know if you heard that fly, but it did fly, so always be careful with that. Got one of the springs here. The other spring managed to fly away, and one of the brushes is still stuck in there, so I'm gonna fish it out. So I've got one spring in the two brushes. Maybe I get lucky and I find the other spring. I don't have too much time to worry about that now. So this is vaguely similar to a Bachmann motors, one of the Bachmann motors. So I have to bend this part up to get the magnets out and separate the brush contact assembly from the plastic part. So however long that takes, you just work it until they come out. But they will come out eventually. And then I've got my rotating assembly. You can see, focus on that a little bit. As you can see, it's a 5-pole. Let's see if the shaft size is the same. That would be very important. Looks really good. But of course, the real test is running trains. I've got to remove the motors and brushes from here also to remove the shaft from the assembly here. So it's the same, exact same principle. They will pop out and you might lose some stuff. But these are the ones I need to reuse, so it's worth it to be extremely careful with that. This one, the spring stayed in there, so we won't change that. There's no need. And then let's get this little guy out. Take your time, it's not a race. Same principle, the spring could pop out, which it didn't. So I don't need to mess with that because I'm going to reuse them. So there's my shaft. Put that aside for now. Let's try out this other one. You can see they look pretty similar. Although my 5-pole shaft seems to be a bit longer. But we'll see. We'll see how it does. Let's give it a chance. The shaft size is perfect though. It still is a bit long for the motor housing, but I'm gonna see if that's gonna work like that. I'll give it a chance. So I'll just put the brushes back in. What's wrong with that? I'm gonna put it back in the fan and we'll see what happens. There's some tweaking. I got it to go. But of course, the real test is on the track. So let's go try that. I did a lot of adjusting. What I ended up doing is I ended up gluing that black plate with the brushes. I ended up gluing that uh, to that silver part there. I'm gonna refocus. Ended up gluing the black plate to the motor here, and that kept the angle of the shaft perfect. So that made a big difference when I was running the engine. And that 5-pole armature, it's far superior, especially for low speeds. So that is a real beauty. Alright, let's put the shell back on. I'm working on a 282, but the 262 is the exact same process. I bought this, it was a little bit of a derelict. The tender wasn't any good. So I'm using a tender from another engine, which happens to run well. So we'll just put these two together. Oops. Need to take my time a little bit more. And now it's time to run some trains. You can even run them real slow. So far superior to the 3-pole motor. Look at that. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. I certainly had fun making it for you. See you soon.